Well, what do you think of when you hear ICP? Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. I'm Chris Gore. And if you notice now that I have a somewhat scratchy voice, maybe more than normal, it's because the last 3 weekends in a row, I have gone to conventions. That's right, comic conventions. I went to Designer Con in November. I was at San Diego Comic Con. Maybe I ran into you. And I was just at LA Comic Con, which was a blast. Conventions are back. Seeing people in real life is back. I saw most people's smiling faces. I did a pretty incredible panel called "Why 99% of Movies Today Are Garbage," which is on That Star Wars Girls YouTube channel, if you want to check that out, which featured a whole bunch of people from the Film Threat staff you don't normally get to see here. But today I am excited to talk to you about a movie about ICP. That's right, Insane Clown Posse. And I'm sure you've heard of Insane Clown Posse. I'm sure you have. You must have. Even if you're not a fan of their music, you know the name ICP. Before I bring on the director of this amazing documentary, The United States of Insanity, I just want to remind you to please support Film Threat. You buy something. Buy something. Go to our shop. You go to shop.filmthreat.com and support us. That would be great. It is the season, so go out and get yourself a Film Threat t-shirt like the one I'm wearing now. But it's time now to talk to Tom Putnam, who is here to tell us about his documentary. Tom, you're no stranger to the Film Threat podcast. It's good to have you here. How's it going?
Well, my throat's a little scratchy. Let me just have some tea out of my Film Threat Indie Film of the Year 2021 award.
That's right. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, dude, The Dark Divide is so great. Like, I'm just like so pleased at all the success for it. So that's awesome.
We were making these at the same time, and actually, if you watch The Dark Divide very closely, there are 5 ICP Easter eggs in that movie.
You're kidding.
And there's a couple Dark Divide ones in the new movie.
Well, I own The Dark Divide on digital, so I can go check that out. That's awesome. That's awesome. This doc is, we were talking before we started recording, it is a labor of love. I mean, you really I know it takes years to make a documentary of that type. I mean, it's archival. And whether you're a fan of ICP's music or not, I mean, they have had an impact on culture. How did you, first of all, I wouldn't have thought like someone that looks like you, kind of straight-laced, like myself, I'm sort of like straight-laced, how did you get involved? How did you find them and actually get drawn into spending years making a documentary about them?
So the Brenna Sanchez, who I directed and produced the film with, she and I had previously made a Detroit documentary called Burn about the Detroit Fire Department, and have another movie coming out that we shot in Detroit, a doc, and we just were there a lot. And she grew up in the city and worked for a number of music magazines and knew about ICP, had covered ICP throughout the years, and I think had kind of forgotten about ICP. So we finished Burn, which was like 2 years of riding around on fire trucks, chasing firefighters into burning buildings. And we were talking about, man, what are we going to follow this up with that's even like half as exciting? And then she read an interview with Violent J and Shaggy 2 Dope, the guys in ICP, about the sort of crossroads they were at. And it was really interesting. So she called them up. Turned out they were fans of Burn. They'd gone to the theater to see it. They're still in Detroit. And she said, hey, I think we might want to make a documentary about you guys. And then they said, can you have a camera crew here tomorrow? Because we're going to have a press conference, which is how the film opens, and announce that we're suing the FBI. And we thought like, oh, cool. We'll go like do a couple interview shoots, get some archival footage from them, which they opened up their entire archives to us. I mean, we have stuff that nobody's ever seen if you're a fan. And here we are now, instead of a few months, 7 years later, because the case just like kept getting crazier and crazier and crazier. And we just kept shooting until it sort of felt like it had a kind of an ending, as much of an ending as like something like this is going to have, where you're fighting the entire US government.
It's weird because, they really made an attempt to vilify their fans. The FBI, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
they tried to classify them as like a gang or something. It was just like, how crazy is it? Like that, we have all this infrastructure and all these organizations, and they seem to be spending more time oppressing, oppressing the citizens of this country rather than, fighting for their rights. It's really, it's an amazing story. Like, and the thing is this, like, an archival doc is really, I think, difficult to make. You're looking at, like, it's a commitment. It's like a marriage, right? You're going in. So where did you begin? At least, like, you're tracking the case as it's going through its machinations, and then you've got the archival stuff. So digging into the archival stuff, what was that process like? I'm always fascinated to hear what filmmakers, what their different processes are.
Yeah, the film is a little bit unique in that it's kind of two movies in one. We open with that press conference, and the film essentially follows our journey over 7 years as we're continuing to get to know the guys, going home with them. Like, we interviewed Violent J's mom in her house, which is basically like a shrine to Titanic, which is incredible. Getting to know other juggalos whose lives are getting turned upside down, and they're trying to figure out what to do. And then the ACLU comes on board, and the case has so many ups and downs. So on the one hand, you're watching the case unfold in front of you, but as we got to know the guys, we also wanted the film to reflect that as we started to go home with them and started to hear how they got where they are. And one of the things I had no idea this was going to be going into it was it actually turned into this pretty amazing, if like very fucked up, American dream story. There's these two guys from Detroit, grew up in really rough neighborhoods, lot of problems in the home, which they sing about in all their songs. And here they turn something around, that they have this giant music empire with all these characters that has 1 million diehard fans, and there's like 300 million people in the US. So like, we all know Juggalos, even if we don't know that we know them. And the archival, we didn't know it was going to have that element, but as we got to know them and they started to share, I went to Violent J's mom's house, and like, we went into her closet and got out all the photo albums, a bunch of which is in the movie. And we just felt like that was a way to not only understand who these guys really are, but also understand that what they do has a lot of value, and people aren't successful by mistake. And, they get called the most hated band in the world, and they're the butt of jokes. Saturday Night Live has done, I don't know how many skits making fun of them, but then you actually hear where the music comes from and all the care and craft that they put into it. There's a scene we shot in Amoeba Records where we go shopping with them, and they talk about all their influences, and it's like Michael Jackson and Pearl Jam and a lot of really interesting sources that once you know that, the music starts to also make more sense. So I think something, you earlier were like, how is somebody that looks like you, spend 7 years with ICP? And one thing that's been weird is now that people have been starting to see the film, they walk out of the theater and they have this look on their face, and they're like, I think I might be a juggalo. Like, they like all the same stuff I like. The music's actually pretty cool, because most people hate on the band, but they probably never actually listened to the music.
Well, I'm actually familiar, or I first became familiar with ICP from Howard Stern. Howard Stern would have them on as guests. So that's where I got to know them, and they were just outrageous. And Detroit, you brought up Detroit. I'm from Detroit as well, and there's something about Detroit that sort of, people that come from there, there's an adversity there and sort of a chip on your shoulder if you come from Detroit, or I like to call it a highly tuned bullshit detector. Anyone from Detroit is just like, you're full of shit, whatever. And that comes across with ICP. What I really enjoyed that you did with the doc, which I thought was a great choice, was you got to know certain juggalos. Like, you actually went to the fans, because what's happened both on things like, SNL or even Stern or whatever, is like the fans get made fun of, right? The Juggalos, right? The fans have their name, and you go to their houses, you get to know their lives, you get to know like who they are as people. Like, first of all, how did you track them down and then make the choices to choose which fans to focus on? And then what were your impressions just getting to know them?
Yeah, for every I mean, even every one-line interview you see in the movie, there's probably 30 other fans that we talked to that we just didn't have time for to include in the film. The DVD, I think, has like 6 hours of extras because we had so much stuff that we couldn't like cram into 99 minutes. It was I mean, Juggalos really are a family, and I mean that in the best sense of the word. And when we started to make the film, and ICP put out on their social media what we were doing, and we were at the gathering, and we were at concerts and different things, people just got to know us and started to come up to us and talk about like how the gang designation had turned their life upside down. So, like, for example, we kept hearing about people losing their jobs because they were Juggalos, and we like completely, without that in mind at all, we went to a small town in Ohio to interview a Juggalo husband and wife named Natalie and Donnie Eckroat. They're like the most like Mayberry Happy Days couple you've ever seen. Like, they dress in matching white outfits. They're both physical therapists. They're high school sweethearts. They have an adorable son named Logan Xavier because they're huge fans of the X-Men comic books, and like have Harry Potter stuff all over their house. And this was supposed to be a scene that was to show that, hey, Juggalos aren't necessarily what you think they are. They can be the opposite. And so we followed Natalie to work. Didn't go into her work. We're just out in the corner of the parking lot with her. She went in to do her physical therapy job, and her boss asked her like, "Whoa, what's going on?" She said, "Oh, I'm in a documentary." And she told her what the documentary was, and she got fired on the spot. And so we kept hearing this. And the one time we went to work with someone, they did get fired. And that was crazy. And we met Natalie through the band. She's the like ring girl for wrestling every year at the gathering. So she's like very well known. And then we spent a bunch of time with a Juggalo in Arizona named Sean Wolf and his family, who are also just like awesome, adorable. They just love band. They're fans. We found Sean because he'd been in some other news stories because his son was put into a group home for 6 years because the state came to do a home check, and Sean had ICP stuff on his wall because he's a fan. That's considered gang paraphernalia. So son goes into a group home. Nope, nothing you can do about it. And that's just crazy. And then, as you see in the film, I mean, there's dozens and dozens of other stories of Juggalos who, I mean, they all get pulled over if they have a Hatchet Man sticker on their car, to people who like getting kicked out of the military, losing law enforcement jobs. It's just crazy. And it's also unprecedented. The FBI has gone after bands before, and we get into that in the film, from the Beatles to the Monkees to, Alice Cooper, Kiss, but they've never officially put a fan base on their gang list, and nobody's ever been taken off it. So basically 1 million people got gang listed without any due process. There's no published criteria for what makes a gang. I think people are shocked to see that, as crazy as America is these days, I think this is even beyond what people expected.
I mean, we live at a time where government overreach is sort of that's the order of the day, right? With everything. And this is just another example of that. And it's actually really frightening. I mean, I'm really happy that you focus like so, a lot on the case, not just the fans, the Juggalos, and the gathering, and getting to know ICP, but this case is really important, whether you care about their music or not, or the band or not. This case is incredibly important. And I'm just curious, what were some of the challenges just to follow all this and to track the case and the developments in the case?
Yeah, I mean, the band historically, legendarily, probably gets the worst press of any band in the history of the world. Jim Jones got like better press than these guys get. And so they were understandably really nervous to talk to us. The Juggalos I think initially all assumed that, oh, this is going to be like another Hatchet job where people just like parachute in, film for a couple days, and then do something making fun of them. And luckily, they were warm enough and caring enough to give us a chance. And I think that was the biggest challenge, and that's one reason the movie took some time, because it's just about building that trust and having people get to know you. Another huge challenge was, like, if you see the movie, I got a call actually from the post-production house when we were finishing it. They were like, your movie has like 3 times the number of edits that a normal movie has. And I think it was just their energy level is so high, and they have so many little influences, and they move so quickly. I mean, you go to a concert and it's like, it's not slow. It's not like a Roger Whittaker concert or something. Like, it's super high energy, and we wanted the film to reflect that. And I think it took a long time to sort of figure out how to cram all those influences in there. And as serious as the film is, also create something that's, I hope, really, really fun and outrageous, and like kind of gives you a sense of what it's like to hang out with these guys and go to a concert with them. That just took time.
Can you explain to the uninitiated exactly what the Gathering of the Juggalos is?
Oh my God. So the Gathering of the Juggalo, imagine Burning Man, but instead of the people that go to Burning Man, it's all Insane Clown Posse fans, which are like, I got to say, they're the most polite people I've ever met. And they also party really, really hard. Every 5 seconds, there's like industrial grade fireworks going off. There's this midget stripper tent, little people stripper tent. There's $5 helicopter rides. There's a whole carnival set up with Ferris wheels and stuff. And there's Faygo launching, which is like these Midwest sodas. There's fire eaters. There's all this crazy stuff happening where it's like being in a like PG-ish version of like a Rob Zombie movie. It's crazy. So people are terrified of the Gathering. We get into that in the film. Like, they regularly will announce a venue and people are like, we don't want the Juggalos coming to our small town. And then, but you get there and it's really, really fun. There's huge acts playing. They have 3 stages. So there's like acts that you grew up with in the 80s that are awesome coming back, or new acts you haven't heard of. And it's just like a 5-day party with like 10,000 Juggalos.
That's like the best description I've ever heard. Burning Man with ICP. And
Yeah.
oh my God. Yeah, it's just like their gathering is kind of legendary. And not just that, the fact that like every time it's announced, there seems to be some pushback from the community because they don't want them there. Yeah. It's crazy.
There's a scene in the film where they announce they're going to play Kaiser, Missouri, which is because that's where the Hells Angels have their annual gathering. So like, Hells Angels, okay, they're going to be fine with us. And the townspeople freak out. They start arming themselves. They're getting ready to like shoot the Juggalos if they show up. So they have to change venues. It's crazy.
I'm curious what the fans of ICP, I love that you're using. See, it's useful.
It's useful. Like, who else? Sure, you can get an Oscar, but what are you going to do with it? Like,
right. It just sits there.
You can't bring it to a meal.
Well, I will say Award This is coming back next year. We're going to do it probably in late April, early May. So hopefully you can go. We're looking at a venue with seats. It's going to be crazy instead of a drive-in.
Wow.
What can we do? But so how have fans reacted? Because they've got to be, what I really feel the film does a great job of is it vindicates fans. It really, I feel, and you were right earlier, you said that like they've gotten the worst press of any band, right? Like, and that was kind of my impression of them is, they're sort of these, I mean, I hate to use the word clowns, but they're like clowns, right? I mean, literally. Yeah. And they're entertaining on Howard Stern, but I didn't really know the band. And so you get to know the band, you get to know the fans, it dispels all these myths. So fans have to be really pleased that they're being at least once being put in a positive light.
That's been great. I got to say, as open as people were, they were, I mean, always sort of like, all right, we're going to do the interview. I guess you're going to probably screw us at some point, but now that they're seeing the movie, I mean, the fans couldn't be happier. They'll come and see it. And then the next night they'll bring their parents, like, finally I can show them like what this thing is all about that they don't understand. And it's tough. I mean, a lot of juggalos come from the Midwest or they're from small towns. They might be the only juggalo in their town. And I don't know of too many fan bases where people will just like openly hate on them or like try to beat them up if they're like repping their favorite band. So I think for the fans, it's been a way to like finally have something that I think is like a movie, right? It's not, there's YouTube videos and things, but this is like a whole feature film with like soundtrack and surround sound and all this great stuff. So they've been really excited. And I think we always knew like once the fans saw it, they were going to like it. The thing that's really surprised me are the people who are seeing it who are like horror fans or just, they're a member of the ACLU and like thought they would want to see this. And then those are the people who come out of it being fans, and seeing that sort of switch has been really exciting for us too, because I think people who learn a good lesson in the film, we learned it, which is that things have value to people. And just because you don't get it doesn't mean it's not important and worthy of protection, and certainly shouldn't be legislated against.
Yeah, to me, it's a slippery slope. If you come after, a band like ICP, what next? Streisand fans? I mean, it's like, it's ridiculous.
It sounds like a joke, right? Like
Right.
I used to tell people like, whoa, what do you work on? And you tell them, they're like, so that's fiction? What, that's like that's like a Fahrenheit 451 thing? It's like, no, this is happening in America. Yeah, think about this. So the FBI put 1 million people on the gang list just because they're fans of a band. In 7 years, and we've had plenty of conversations with the FBI and talked to a lot of law enforcement, some of which is in the movie, we could never find any sort of, there's no person who's responsible for it. There's no published criteria. They have a sort of unofficial 3-item checklist for what kind of makes a gang. The band and the fan base only checks off 2 of those. And this is a band that has 1 million followers. They got the backing of the ACLU. It's been 10 years actually, since the gang designation, and they're still fighting it. Imagine if you're one person. I mean, you look at ICP fans, and sure, a certain percentage are going to be criminals. Take 1 million of anybody, but then you look at like Raiders fans or Dodgers fans. I mean, there's gangs that rep Dodgers gear, all kinds of sports fans. I mean, you look at like Snoop Dogg or Lil Wayne, who openly repped that they were in a gang. That's the reason the ACLU got involved, was they saw a big injustice here, but they also saw that this feels like a test case. I don't think it's a coincidence that the FBI went after Juggalos first, because I think anytime disenfranchised or poor Americans mobilize into a group, that's scary for people in power.
Well, it's an amazing documentary, whether you're a fan of the band or not. I mean, it's such an incredible story, and it's really important. And I thought, like, as I'm watching it, I remember hearing about the case vaguely, but like, it's so timely to battles that are being fought right now. It's just really disconcerting to see elements within our government like go after Americans, right? That are just, I mean, as you pointed out earlier, juggalos they're harmless, right? For the most part, like, it's harmless fun at the gathering.
Yeah, I mean, we spent a bunch of time with the law enforcement who are working the gathering, and there's a really fun sequence in the movie. They love the gathering. They had no arrests the year we were there. They're terrified when like the country music fans come to the venue, because
Right.
they've got drunken disorderly arrests. They have attempted rapes by the hour. I mean, there's so many fan bases that are much scarier for like the boots on the ground law enforcement than juggalos. And I mean, the film definitely gets into government overreach, but I'm also proud of the fact that it's apolitical. And
Right.
Everybody who's seen it, we screened the film in Texas, we screened the film in, all over, conservative, liberal, people all just walk out of it agreeing that this is not right. And I think that's pretty cool.
What I love about the doc is, because I'm seeing a trend with so many docs that are just straight up propaganda.
Yeah.
I'm not naming names, but you figure, you see a doc and it's like, well, what's the agenda behind this doc? Like, why this? And you really look at everything from all angles, and the viewer is allowed to come to their own conclusions based on what you present, and I think it's just really well done. So the movie's coming out because I want you to see it. Watching this, you need to see this documentary.
Yes.
Fan of ICP or not, it's an important documentary. It's out December 10th. Is that right? On
December 10th we have a bomb ass DVD with like 6 hours of extras, but it's also out on digital. It's gonna be on iTunes, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, not Netflix because they're cowards. But yeah, you can go to icpmovie.com and find some links, or go right to your favorite place that you buy or rent movies.
Not just that, I think that is it too early to announce we're doing a watch party on the 17th?
No, go for it.
Okay, we're doing a watch party on the 17th.
Woo!
17th of December, a watch party. If you are Juggalo or not, Tom will be there. I'm sure there'll be some other special guests. Can you announce any other guests yet? Or
not yet? The only thing I know for sure is this is going to have something stronger than tea in it.
Okay, good. All right. Well, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, we have some other special guests for this very special the United States of Insanity watch party on December 17th here on the Film Threat YouTube channel. So be there for that, because you'll be able to ask Tom questions in our chat. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's our last watch party for 2021. Tom, award this winning director. And I'm fairly, I mean, like, I got to say, there's a very good chance that your doc will be nominated for an award because it fits the category, right? It's like it was reviewed on Film Threat and it was released in 2021. All right. It's probably too early to say, but there's a good chance in the category of music doc.
Amazing.
That you'll, I don't know. I'm just saying you fit all the criteria of a movie that would get an award. United States of Insanity out December 10th. Come back to the Film Threat YouTube channel on December 17th for our watch party. Tom Putnam, dude, so good to see you again.
Good to see you, man.
Thanks for being on the Film Threat podcast.
Thank you.